Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time is that you are watching us at this live stream. Thank you for tuning in. This time we have Marc all the way from Netherlands. He is probably, if not the youngest Power Platform data platform MVP, one of the youngest Power Platform MVPs that we have. His area of focus is, of course, Power BI. I'll let him to explain himself and introduce himself to you. The topic is about data culture in your organization, and if you have any questions, feel free to write it in the chat window. I'll let Marc know about those questions coming in, and here you go, Marc. How are you doing?
Yep. Hey, good afternoon. And for me, actually, it's good afternoon. For you, it's good morning. I'm doing fine, thanks.
Great. So what you are going to talk about today?
Yeah, it's all about driving a data culture in your organization, and what are the pitfalls you could have. What can you do in driving a data culture, and where to think about when you talk about a data culture.
Fantastic. We are more than interested to hear about that.
Okay, good.
I'll make you presenting full screen now. Feel free to.
Yep.
Okay. Can see you.
Okay, great. Thanks. So as said, it's all about driving a data culture in your organization. It's a new topic for me, a new presentation. I've talked a lot about more in-depth technical Power BI sessions, and this time it's more about actually the first time that I'm not having a Power BI desktop demo in my presentation. So that's a new thing. So a data-driven ambition, it's something that comes up in my mind as well. So how do you transform data from data to insights and in the end to action, but then in the end looping or continuing this loop again and again. That is actually what we start talking about. How can you make this happen in your organization, but not only for you, but for your entire organization? How can you make your organization a little bit more data-driven? I will talk about that during this session based on the four smaller topics, which is what challenges are we facing today, what exactly is a data culture, a center of excellence as a central driver behind the data culture, what tools and services can you offer from a center of excellence to help driving this data culture. Before we go a little bit deeper in that, I will shortly introduce myself further. As Reza already introduced me, my name is Marc. I'm working as a data and AI consultant for McCall in the Netherlands. I'm a data platform MVP. As Reza said, I might be the youngest one. I don't know, honestly. 25 years old at this moment. I'm not only a huge Power BI fan, I'm also a beer fan. So that's why you might know me as the guy behind Power Beer. Having t-shirts, mugs, or whatever. It's just one of my hobbies, honestly. I'm from the Netherlands, from a very small town that you probably have never heard of. It's called Haastrecht, and it's a town that is close to Gouda. Maybe you pronounce it as Gouda, the city from the cheese that is sold all over the world. But probably not made there. That's an interesting thing as well. But I'm living like 5 kilometers from there. That doesn't necessarily mean that I eat a lot of cheese. Enough about me. Let's continue with this topic that's probably much more interesting than me. So what challenges do we face today? What is blocking us today in driving our data culture? And what can you do to drive the data culture in your organization? If we start looking at the implementation of Power BI is there now since 2015, and that is more or less the time that I started working. So my career continued in the same time as Power BI grows. And if we compare the growth of Power BI to other BI tools, first wave was really technical BI. It was more about IT pushed reports and dashboards to the end user. The second wave was more analyst to end user, more self-service BI, where the analyst was able to build reports and dashboards and push them more to the end user. But with Power BI, we really could focus on BI for everyone. So everyone within your organization should be capable and should be able to build their own data insights for their day-to-day job. And that is everything that is directly related to driving a data culture in your organization. Having that said, everyone in your organization starts engaging with software, and not only with software, but also with Power BI these days. If it's not directly with Power BI, maybe with similar parts like Power Pivot in Excel. What is happening over the last years already a lot, and it's more transforming to Power BI, at least what I see in the customers I work for. When everybody's starting to work with Power BI, there are a few things that we need to be aware of, because everybody gets a license, everybody can start doing their own thing. But if we're not governing this environment, if we're not taking care of this environment or providing them with the right things, it can be one big mess. And we will get there in a second as well. It's not only about how does these insights come from data to insight, it's also about how are they transforming through the business. Is it more a business-led self-service BI, so it's bottom-up? The business comes up with new insights and pushing them up as information for managers or even senior managers. Is it blended? It's IT managed sources combined with self-service reporting and dashboarding, or is it corporate BI, what I just explained as more technical BI, top-down, IT to end user? If we have a look at bottom-up, and of course I picked totally random names here. If it's more bottom-up, we have a lot of people in our organization that are working with data analytics and working with Power BI to build their new insights, their new reports and dashboards to drive their business in their day-to-day work. As said, if everybody gets a license and everybody starts playing around without any guidance, it can become one big mess. And we have multiple persons across the organization that are building reports, building Power BI reports, sharing them in ways that's probably not aligned with how we should do it, how we advise to do it, or how we want to do it according to the governance. Not even thinking about security issues that might pop up. So a lot of things that can happen when you just simply enable Power BI without taking care of it. So everyone can do their own analysis in your organization. So what? That's the goal we wanted to reach, right? But the things we should take care of is we should have a little control about what's happening. We should take care of the data sensitivity that is used in these reports, the correctness of this data. We want to avoid that we have different versions of the truth, of course. But also the solution health. If we build something, how do we make sure that it's still working tomorrow or even the day after? And much more, of course. So all these different topics are related to transforming your organization to be more data-driven and the challenges you might face by doing that. And in the end, the most interesting thing is what value does this insight actually add to your day-to-day business? What is the value for your organization to become more data-driven? A few of the things that are happening a lot when you talk about data-driven transformations, and what I've seen a lot, is that architecture is leading instead of the goal of the analysis is leading. So we came up with a fantastic data platform solution, something like you see here, for example, really technical, a lot of different components, but in the end, it doesn't serve the end user and the goal they want to reach, and it's not the right fit for the purpose. That's one of the things that you might face. So why should you push a certain architecture if it is not the correct one for the purpose you have within your organization? Another thing is if you have a center of excellence or competence center or whatever name you gave it in your organization, make sure that it's facilitating the business instead of only monitoring and correcting what goes wrong. So make sure you provide the right tools and the right templates and more, what I will tell you more about in a second, to your end user to do their job in a correct way. Having that said, what exactly is this data culture that we're talking about? How do we know what this data culture is, and how do we transform that into or map that to our business? It's actually a combination of 3 different components. And there are 3 different components that need to be combined. It's not one or the other. First one, of course, is data, which is obvious. The second one is analytics. We need to make sure that we have analytics on our platform or the right tools available to do this data analysis, to do analysis on top of this data sets. And the third one is people. In the end, there are people driving this transformation in your organization. You need to find the right supporters, the right champions in your organization that are the drivers behind your center of excellence, that are the drivers behind this data-driven transformation. So these 3 together, your data-driven transformation will not be successful if one of these 3 is missing. So let's dive a little bit deeper in each of these 3. So first, we have a look at data. It can be any source of data, no matter if it's in the cloud, if it is on-premise, or maybe a hybrid combination of that. Any type of data in your organization can add value to your day-to-day processes. So that can be your ERP system, that can be your data platform solution that are already in place. But do not forget about the probably local saved Excel files that are maintained on a day-to-day basis by the business. On first attempt, you might think they are pretty useless, and it is Excel and it is manually maintained, so there's a higher chance on failures in the data. But yeah, maybe it can add value. For example, the local maintained target list for a specific department, or it can add value to your data-driven transformation. So every source of data in your organization can be valuable. The second thing, it can be analytics, and analytics in many different forms. So as I said in the beginning, I'm a huge Power BI fan, so let's have a look at what Power BI can add here. Power BI can really help you in discovering your data, search for data, and combine different sources and combine them into one model that can be leveraged. Share insights and analytics across your organization with Power BI service. Make sure that it's not only adding value for you, but for your entire team, maybe your entire department, or maybe the entire organization. We can easily analyze data. It analyzes tons of data in a few clicks and let it add value. Think about Q&A functionality in Power BI, or the quick insights that maybe can give you a first glance on your data, what it might be about. Find and explore, find answers and explore the data in different visuals, Q&A capabilities, maybe the AI visuals in Power BI that we have nowadays. Easily transform then millions of rows in data in stunning visuals that you can use for marketing purposes or marketing outings on social media, for example. And probably most important, especially in these days, you can use it everywhere. It's on your fingertips, it's on your mobile phone, it's on your tablet, it's on your computer. It doesn't matter where you are. If it is in Power BI and published to the Power BI service, you can access it anywhere. Last part is people. And people is, in the end, the driver to make sure that the parts, data and analytics are adding value to your business. Without these people, it would not be successful at all. The thing where you should focus on is actually make sure you find the champions in your organization, the people that are supporting you in your data-driven ambition, and make sure they start adding value to their team and start spreading your word. Make them a supporter for your goal that you try to reach. So these 3 components together, what in the end is this bringing me? So I combine data, analytics, and people. In the end, this will be a competitive advantage for your organization. So this competitive advantage is especially because you get new insights that you were probably not aware of in the beginning. And these new insights will give you one step up front instead of the competitors are probably a step ahead of you. All this can be driven by a center of excellence, and a center of excellence can be the central driver behind your data culture. The central driver is important to make sure that you will be successful and that the people are doing the right things and avoid the issues and the probably pitfalls that I've told you in the beginning. So what is in the name? I just called it the Center of Excellence now a few times. But if you start looking around for it, you see a bunch of other names that can probably mean the same thing. The Center of Expertise, Business Intelligence Competence Center, or just a Competence Center. Honestly, I don't really care what you call it, as long as it is doing the right thing and facilitating the business in the data-driven ambition instead of controlling. So it is not really about a name. I just call it a Center of Excellence for now. If you decide to give it another name, be my guest. Most important is that it's taking a central position in your organization. Data should be in the heart of your organization, and with that also your center of excellence. A data-driven organization is actually taking decisions based on data. So the data will help you in your day-to-day work. It's not only doing the analysis because we want to know what we did in the past. No, we want to learn from it so we make sure that we do the right things in the future. So with that, we can improve our results and grow margin over time, or maybe reach other goals that we have. With continuous analysis and improvements, and we can improve our market value. We can go that one step up front of our competitors. Another thing that's important to look at from a center of excellence position is make sure that you build pre-packaged artifacts to kickstart new initiatives. If you're working multiple times with the same data set or can use similar data sets, for example, dimensions that you share over different insights, pre-package them and make a pre-packaged artifact so that not only you, but also your co-workers can leverage them in their data analysis. Make sure that the data is at your fingertips and be able to build new solutions quickly. So not taking months or maybe even longer before you finally have these deferred insights. And this comes together with the pre-packaged artifacts. And empower the individuals in your organization to use data in their day-to-day work. So give them the right tools and the right things to make sure that they can use it. And finally, data as ideation and innovation driver in your organization. If somebody has an idea, please do not try to kill this idea, but support them by providing them with the right tools and the right data. If it is in the heart of the organization, what exactly is a center of excellence doing for you? It has an overview of all the different initiatives across your organization. They should be aware of what is happening, which department or which program is running that is using our data or our organization data to reach the goals of our organization, to take our organization to a next level. They should provide best practices and templates to make sure that they are not sharing, for example, and often something I've seen a lot, that they're not sharing reports from my workspace. It's something very simple, but it's still happening a lot. So provide your business with best practices and templates to make everything look in your corporate identity, for example. Make sure that the right expertise and knowledge is on board in your center of excellence. If somebody in the business has a question, support them, help them with your expertise and bring them to the next level. Give them some guidance and training. Guidance in terms of help them be available, work together with them, and train them in do the right things and how to use the right tools and how they should do their analysis. All that also comes together to governance. For example, disable publish to web is something that is disabled nowadays by default, but it wasn't before. So make sure that your tenant, your Power BI tenant, is set up correctly according to the guidelines and the governance you want to apply to your organization. Another interesting thing that I have a lot of discussion about is maybe you should disable export to Excel from Power BI because Power BI is not intended to be an ETL tool. And the interesting thing is that people don't really like that opinion sometimes because you can also see it as an innovation killer because maybe they want to reuse the same data that we have in Power BI for a new initiative. But in fact, if you make sure that you provide the right information and the right platform available for your end user, and make it easy accessible to reuse data from the platform perspective, you do not have to export it from Power BI. So that also comes together to governance. Make sure that you enable and disable the right functionalities in Power BI. Tools, and tools can be anything. It can be Power BI Desktop, it can be Tabular Editor, it can be Deck Studio. There are many different tools around that you can provide to your business and work together with IT, because a center of excellence doesn't have to be IT by default. Work together with IT and make sure that they can use the right tools to do their data analysis in the most effective way. And in the end, you can be the bridge between them, between the typical end user in your organization that is doing their own data analysis, and, for example, Microsoft support. They do not have to reach or create a ticket for every single thing, but they first come to you, and if you cannot solve it for them, then you can create a support ticket. So this also comes together with the right expertise and knowledge, guidance, and training. A center of excellence, of course, needs different roles. It's not just a random person that you pull in. There are different roles in a center of excellence that has specific skills and responsibilities. So let's have a quick look at what roles you can think about. Of course, you need a corporate sponsor that influences the strategy around the BI tools. This can also be a tool assessment, of course, because I'm a Power BI, huge Power BI fan, but it's not. This story is not only applicable to Power BI. Corporate sponsor is also something important that I've seen going wrong a few times, simply because setting up a center of excellence was seen as a project, and a project has a typical end. This is not something that you start and end in a year. It is something that you start and you will continue investing in it. A center of excellence needs to be on top of every new thing that is coming up in your environment, in your organization, but also in the tool you use, and make sure that it is implemented in the right way and used in the right way in your organization. Of course, the investments in the first period are a little bit higher in the startup phase and can lower down a little bit in a later phase, but it's not something that is ending in a year or 2 years. You need to continue on investing in this. The Power BI champion. This can be a subject matter expert. It's somebody within your organization that you onboard to your center of excellence, and you use as a bridge between your center of excellence and your strategy in your organization and your end users. These are also the people that are building the solutions in your organization and deploying them to the business. So this can be, for example, an HR person, but at the same time also somebody else from finance. Can be anyone. Another thing that's important is also to have a look at security. I already noticed publish to web functionality, but even within the organization, not every insight can be shared with anyone in the organization. So a security officer also should be a role in your center of excellence. Also important for some data classification. What type of data is this? Is it highly sensitive information? Can this be shared with anyone, or only with managers, or only with top level managers? So the security officers need to have a look at the data and the usage and policies around it. Another thing is also data steward. Somebody that has a look at data modeling needs to have a look at, is this data model set up correctly according to our standards, according to our best practices? This is important to make sure that you reach the correct results, to deliver solutions from a right quality and match the quality criteria you've defined, and create and maintain a catalog, a data catalog, and maybe even a data dictionary about what types of fields do we use, where is this data coming from, and in which reports is it used. A data architect, which has a technical knowledge of the data sources and how to connect to them. Big organizations might use, for example, an SAP data source, but at the same time have a CRM system in Salesforce or Dynamics. And you might want to mix them up and measure up the data source and come to new insights. A data architect can help you in providing you with the right architecture for the right purpose, to match the business criteria. So the business criteria is leading here, not the architecture of the data platform. BI developer, it was fully understanding the capabilities of the BI tool. I prefer Power BI. And make sure that the data sources are connected correctly inside Power BI. Have a decent Power BI solution before you push it to the end user. This is also the person that is helping you in your data-driven ambition, and the person that is supporting the business if they have questions. BI developers also making sources available for self-service. Think about maybe pre-produced data flows and entities that can be used for your organization. An administrator, of course, in the end, your center of excellence is also the team that is running the entire Power BI tenant and is governing the Power BI tenant. So it's also responsible for authentication, IT service management, make sure that the right people have a Power BI license assigned, because only your developers need to have a Power BI license in case you have freemium, for example. But it's also monitoring the environment and maintaining gateways. Make sure they are up to date and running on a decent server. And in the end, support, fully understanding Power BI capabilities and communicating in case there are issues, supporting the users in their self-service scenarios, providing them templates and best practices. Governance is another thing you should have a look at, because you can have really tight controls and not allow anything, or you can have less controls. And the fun thing is, I had a discussion today with somebody on LinkedIn that asked me, is there a way to secure the Power BI service via a VPN? Because I don't want my end users to access the Power BI content without having my VPN enabled. And I actually asked them, why do you want to do that? Yes, because we have really sensitive information. So you should always find a mix between really tight controls and less controls, because in the end, they will reach their goal anyway. If you're not providing them with the right tools to reach their goal, and you're actually killing the adoption of Power BI with this, they will probably start exporting it to Excel or start emailing PBIX files around, because they will share their insights anyway, no matter if you provide them with the right things or not. So better allow them to do the things in the way you like them to do it, and control it and monitor it, instead of killing the innovation and adoption and have no control at all what's happening. So there should always be a mix in less controls and tight controls. For example, for personal reporting, you probably don't want to have that much controls. This is a typical thing that happens for inspirational reporting. See if there's any value in the data, probably something that's in my workspace inside Power BI. If you go a level up to project reporting, that's the first level where you probably want to have a little bit more control. You want to make sure that this type of reporting is sustainable and it's not only working today, but also tomorrow and the next week. So you think about the setup of a workspace. It needs to be an upgraded workspace or a V2 workspace directly. Where's the data saved? So a lot of things you can think about. If you look at departmental team or group reporting, you might have a little bit more control and a centralized data model instead of only centralized dimensions. And in the end, if you go all the way up to enterprise data warehousing, this can be tight controls, and that can be, for example, your HR reporting or finance reporting. There is no doubt that these numbers need to be true. There's no room for correction or misinterpretation of this data. So really tight controls. We allow you to export this data, yes or no. This is the report, and there's no other way to look at this data. One of the things I told you before, the pitfalls that you might have about an exponential growth of your content. What can you do from a COE perspective to avoid this big mess that is happening? There are a few things you can do. First of all, let's get a little bit more order in the chaos. Make sure that you know who's the end user of what content, who's responsible for what, which department is the owner of this content, and a lot of other things you can think about to actually get a little bit more insight in it. Also, start separating people and content, because you want to identify your champions. Who in my organization is my typical champion that is creating a lot of content? And what type of reports do I have? Is this typically based on Excel exports, or is it all connecting to my SAP environment? So separate people and content and start building a monitor. A monitor that monitors your entire Power BI environment, and have a look at, for example, content availability. Define orphan datasets. Datasets that are still published in Power BI, but there's no report attached to it, because something that is every day happening in Power BI, if you remove a report, the dataset will not be deleted. If you do it the other way around, both your dataset and report will be deleted. So it might be that there are a lot of datasets around that are not used at all. Clean up your environment. So let's have a look at what content is out there in the Power BI service, what is actually used, who's the owner, but also have a look at maybe somebody left your organization and there are still reports and refreshes attached to their name. So another thing to have a look at. Also have a look at usage of content. You can think of growth scenarios. If something started with really less controls at the bottom of your governance model, but it's very often used by a lot of people in your organization, you might want to grow it in a governance model and start thinking about maybe connecting other sources, start managing it, or adding support on top of this type of reporting or dashboarding. Make sure that you have a good feeling about what is used and what is important for my organization. So monitor your environment with that. Also have a look at performance. If you have Power BI premium capacity, performance can be a thing. If you start refreshing everything at 9 in the morning, for example, because everybody wants to have their reports up to date at 9 when they start working, do some load scheduling, make sure that the performance of your capacity is doing well, to make sure that everybody's happy and everybody is happy with the results. They're well performing, available on any place, any device they want, simply because this is one of the drivers behind your adoption. If I'm opening a report and have to wait for 5 minutes before it shows up, I'm probably distracted and start doing something else and reading my email, for example. So performance can be a really important thing. From a COE perspective, lineage can also be important. What sources are used? Are they using our managed sources? Are they still connecting a bunch of Excel files that are exported from another source? If so, maybe we should have a look at what can we do to improve the source quality. And also the environmental health. I already named premium capacity, that's an important thing, but also have a look at, for example, your gateways. Are your gateways up to date? Are they running on the latest versions? There's more you want to do with that. So have a look at your environmental health. What can you do and what can you do to make it all run smoothly and keep it running smoothly? The delivery approaches I've showed you before, so bottom up, blended, or top down, is also important when we have a look at what type of sources you might be using and who's the owner of this content. If we have bottom up, a typical business-led self-service BI, your data source can be anything. It can be the manual exported Excel, but the owner is also somebody in the organization. It's not managed, it's not supported, and the usage of scope is for the business. They're doing end-to-end everything. So data preparation, modeling, reporting, and dashboarding. If we go all the way to the right to corporate BI, which is a typical top-down scenario, it is all published by IT, owned by IT, and is fully supported by IT. The end user, the business, is only leveraging the insights, leveraging the reports and dashboards. The blended version in the middle, this contains managed sources. For example, your SAP system that is managed and connected via a gateway, where the gateway is managed by IT, but the self-service end users can leverage this gateway to have a reliable source for their insights. So the data model can also be owned by IT, and where the end user only builds a report on top. And And in a lot of cases, there is also a little, or maybe a little bit more even, support on the data modeling and the measures created, for example, where reporting and dashboarding can be the business responsibility. If we give this a name, actually
interrupt. There was a
Sure.
question about, do you have any good sample or templates of an admin report for Power BI report server, or can you recommend anything?
For Power BI report server in specific, that's an interesting one. I know that Parker Stevens, one of the other MVPs, is building or has a few YouTube videos at this moment about monitoring your environment. But that's all based on the Power BI admin APIs. For Power BI report server, I don't know, honestly. I'm not having that much experience with it, but maybe you have an idea.
Yeah, I think those templates that you mentioned are good. Like the back end of the report server would be a little bit different. Data is stored in like SQL tables rather than getting those with like PowerShell scripts from audit log. So it would be a little bit different, but your front end would be the same. So you can use those samples that Mark mentioned, at least to have like your front end in a template. I think that's
indeed
the best advice I can give.
Yeah. And in that case, it's mostly based on the Power BI REST APIs, where you can get the metadata from all the content that's out there.
Great, thank you.
Okay, sure. So if we have a look at these three different delivery approaches and we give them a name, I think the business-led self-service BI is 100% business-driven, where corporate BI is 100% IT-driven, and the IT-managed self-service BI, the mixed option, blended option, is like a 50-50. It can be, for example, only your data flows are managed by IT, or maybe data flows and Dataset is managed by IT, maybe even only the gateway to connect to your sources. So this can be anything between 1090 to 9010 differentiation, all depending on how you want to fill this in from your center of excellence. So let's have a look at what tools and services you can provide to your end user as a center of excellence to help them in their data-driven ambition. One of the important things is a data catalog. You want to avoid that they start exporting Excels or CSVs from any source and importing them from a C drive. So make sure that you have a proper data catalog where you provide them with all the different connectors you have in your organization, all the different sources that they can connect to directly without the need for manual exports. An interesting thing there to have a look at is the PBIDS files. This is something that's available as of October 2019. And interesting enough, I haven't seen a lot of people using it since then. Maybe a few people are using it, but what this PBIDS file is doing is actually not bothering your end users with creating a connection to a source with a connection string, database name, and all that. PBIDS file is providing all this packaged together in a PBIDS file that you can open with Power BI Desktop, where this connection is already created for them. I already said not a lot of people are using it. Personally, I'm also not using it, but that's mainly because our blended version, for example, is mainly based on we provide them data flows that they can use, and they only have to connect to the data flows. And these data flows are prepared data coming from the different sources in the organization. And there's also a little confusion always around what is the difference between a PBIDS file and a PBIT file, which is a Power BI template file. But definitely something interesting to have a look at when you start setting up your data catalog. Also think about master data management. I already named it in the previous slide. Pre-built data flows can be leveraged by your end users. For example, your customer dimension, you can put it in a data flow and make sure that everyone is using the same dimension. Access your dimension and dimensional data in a common data model can also be something to consider. Or give them easy access to data lakes or data warehouses. Make sure that it's as easy as possible for them to connect to those models. Or if you don't want to bother your end users with all this and they need to build a data model themselves, you can also pre-build data models and let them leverage the model where they only build reports and dashboards on top. Think about dataset classification. Give them some clear guidelines on how you can promote or certify your dataset and what criteria needs to be matched before they can promote or certify a dataset in the organization, and allow other people in the organization to reuse the dataset. For example, certified are only datasets that are provided by the Center of Excellence, and promoted are coming from the champions. But what criteria needs to be matched before you reach this level? Think about certain security settings that need to be set. You need to have row-level security. The data needs to be connected to one of the sources and it cannot come from Excel. There are certain criteria you can think about. But do not forget to also give a little bit of freedom to your end users. They need to have playgrounds and sandboxes where they can play around with the data in an easy way, without too much control. So there you have the personal level reporting with less controls. The playgrounds and sandboxes are the main driver behind the innovation and inspirational things and ideation things in your organization. Lineage is an important thing to have a look at. It's not only important for you as a center of excellence, but it's also important for your end user. They want to know how reliable is the data I'm looking at. Where is this data coming from? Power BI Service nowadays has a native functionality for lineage, but if you have viewer rights on a workspace, or you only have access to the app that's published from the workspace, you cannot access this lineage view. So make sure that somewhere in your report you tell the end user where this data is coming from and how reliable is the source, and make sure that they can trust the data. So all important information around the data set that needs to be shared. Provide them training. It can be online, especially nowadays with the whole COVID situation, but it can also be a classroom training. But do not imagine that in big enterprise organizations that you as a COE can train the entire organization. Think about let your end user or let your champions or other decentralized parts of your organization train the end user. So that can be your key user champions. It can be a champion inside a department or a chapter lead that start training the people in the hierarchy level below them, the end user. So you as a COE train the correct people and they share your story with other people again. More or less a train the trainer principle. Also value their effort. It's not following the training and that's it. Now you know everything. Value their effort and give them some internal certification. Like we certify you as an analyst within our organization, or a champion if you follow these courses. Provide them with the right trainings on different topics, but value their effort and give them some recognition in the organization. This is important for every human being to give some to get some recognition for what they are doing and all the effort they put in to take the organization, but also themselves to a next level. Provide them with best practices that can be done in any form that you like. On the left side, you see a Power BI cheat sheet that you can just drop on every desk. Probably a little bit harder in today's life with the COVID situation. But also think about a central SharePoint page or any other page where you share best practices. Provide them with the teams and the color teams for Power BI to import and apply their corporate organization. Give them the right information to do their job in the most effective way. I already named it, templates. Create templates to directly import a corporate identity, maybe directly connect to or import a data mention that is the default data mention in your organization. But also have a look at, for example, template apps that can be used to connect to one of their specific sources in the organization, for example, to Dynamics or Google Analytics. One of the most important things, and not to forget about, is building a community. Building a community can be done in many different forms. On the left side, you see, for example, a Teams channel. On the right side, a Yammer channel, where you share the new announcements around Power BI. You share what's coming or was just released in this month's release. What is this new release adding for you as value? when can we expect something new? For example, what is released tonight, the 2020 Wave 2 release plan, something you can share in your community. Make them part of a bigger thing in your organization. Make them part of your center of excellence and share your story with the rest of the organization. They are your supporters in the organization. And last but not least, also make sure that you organize Q&A hours. There are always questions in the organizations. You need to fill this knowledge gap. You can do that in trainings, but people are busy all day. So organize Q&A hours where you just have a call with one specific topic, where you have a few people in an expert panel from your center of excellence that are talking about this topic. People can just call in, ask questions, share their story and their experience. These typical things give a little bit more interaction between your end user and your center of excellence that is centralized in the heart of your organization. Having that said, I want to do a short recap of everything that I've told you. Data is in the heart of your organization if you have a data-driven ambition. Important thing there is that the architecture of your data platform and your entire data landscape needs to have a fit for purpose. Architecture is not leading. The purpose of your data analysis is leading here. And every employee in your organization should be able to work with this data, no matter where the data is coming from, no matter what tools they need to start working with this data. It can be Power BI, can be Excel, can be anything. A center of excellence can be or should be your central driver behind your data culture. They should provide the right tools and the right information with the right standards and templates to every user in your organization and start using this data. Not to forget about the COE needs to be facilitating the business, not only controlling and telling them what they did wrong. Facilitate them with the right tools and the right standards. If you all do that, then you can start combining the three components, which is data, analytics, and people, and reach that competitive advantage. Where you can as your organization, take the next step to be in front of your competitors. With that, I want to give you the opportunity to ask questions if there are any.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Great presentation. Eye-opener for a lot of people working with Power BI in a self-service environment and things like that. Now, we have a question about business requirement gathering. Do you have like a template or something like that for business requirement gathering for that you use for like planning, for creating reports or things like this?
Yeah, it's not really a template. What I usually do is if I start gathering the requirements, and I understand that's a little bit difficult nowadays, but I just start drawing on a whiteboard, for example. I start to have a chat with them and actually ask them a lot of times, why is this important for you to drive your decisions in your day-to-day job? And when we finally come to the point that we start designing a report or a dashboard, I'm not bothering them with how the data model is built on the back end. That is my part of the job. And in the end, they care about how it looks, especially if you talk to marketing people, for example. And then I just simply start drawing. I start drawing a first sketch of the dashboard or the report and let them provide feedback directly. And in the end, I just make a picture of it on how it should look. And then start building a quick and dirty first sample of it.
Yep, thank you. Great advice. Also, Nikki joined us and he mentioned that there's a template that Mikko Yuk uses, which should be great. He's looking to see if he can find it. Yeah, that's definitely great. But yeah, same for me. I'm not really using a template myself, but I do it in the way that Mark mentioned, by like some discussions around it, taking a sample screenshot of what they are looking for, or building that with like a piece of paper, like this is how do you like it to be.
Yeah, and also not to forget about inspire them with everything that's possible, because maybe they're not fully aware of all the capabilities that a tool as Power BI has today. So also try to inspire them with different samples that you already created for other purposes.
Great. I have another question from Andrew. Do you have any ideas how to make a coherent enterprise reporting offering from a mess of hundreds of SSRs and shared Power BI reports, each made of individual requests with no report catalog?
And that's an interesting one. The first thing where I will start probably, especially with these XMLA endpoints that you have nowadays, you can connect to a data set that is published already. And for SSRS, if there is an analysis services model behind, you can do the same. You can connect to it and start using the dynamic management views. This will tell you more about what sources are used in this data model, what measures are created. Not really about the visualizations, it's really about the data model. But at least it gives you some insight of where is this data set about. And you might want to script that and run that over the entire environment. If it is all Power BI service related, there are also API calls to get all this information in a certain monitoring solution. If not, I would recommend you to have a look at XMLA endpoints to start gathering this information. And this will give you a first insights in building your data catalog, for example, and also in maybe getting some definitions. What measures are created and where are these measures based on? What data set is behind it? Yep. Maybe you have anything to add to that, Reza?
Thank you. No, that's great. Yeah, if I think a little bit of like architectural thing would help in that case, like not having everything built like totally separate, using like kind of a shared data set. Now in report server, we don't really have that concept if everything is on-prem, but you can at least have analysis services hosting the model, then reports out of it. Then if your reports have like report level measures like what Mark mentioned, thinking about what reports are sharing those. So you need to get some help with some tools such as Tabular Editor, DAX Studio, Power BI Helper, a lot of tools in the community for that, and kind of validate your report. So you might have like a validation steps for your reports. Then you might bring those measures back into your central model or things like that. So it's a long practice for sure. But it is something you need to do because these reports are just growing.
Yeah, and especially with big enterprise organizations, there's always a long history of what is created by people who are probably already left the company.
Yeah, great. And I see Rishi also joined in the chat, and he's mentioning that there's a template he can use, so he might be able to share that. Fantastic, thank you. So no more questions. I think this was a great session.
If there are no more questions, I want to do a shameless plug of another session that is hosted tomorrow.
Absolutely, go for it.
Tomorrow we have the Power BI Days Netherlands, where we have Freddy and Catherine presenting. So we have actually two great female speakers. Nikki will host this session together with me tomorrow evening. You can still subscribe for it on powerbidays.com. So feel free, if you subscribe, you will receive the link in your email to join the session tomorrow evening. It is European time, by the way.
Awesome, thank you. I'm sure most of our audience would be able to find time working on that time frame. We will also share the link to Power BI Days down in the description below in the chat window. Thank you again, Mark, for your time. If you can share your slides, we will also put the link down in the description below. I see you have a link for that.
Well,
so we'll share
yeah,
that.
I will do, sure. Okay, thanks, Reza. Thanks for having me. It was an honor to present on your channel.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. See you next time, next week, with another session. Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.